بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So I'll talk about the definition of Tawheed al-Asma'i was-Sifat. We said in order for us to define any words or concept in a clear definition, we have to look into linguistically what this terminology means. Then we look to the technical definition for it. That's right. But also I forgot to mention one more thing. When we define any terminology, if this terminology made out of several words or more than one word, we have to define each word by itself. Then we add all of them together and see what they mean when we put them together. For example, who knows what does usul al-fiqh means? Rules of fiqh.
The science of studying fiqh, how to use those
Science of fiqh.
how to use those sources and the circumstances of the benefactor.
You just went to a Maghrib class or something?
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds like somebody memorizing it. طيب. Usul al-fiqh, as this terminology, usul, in order to define this, we define what usul means by itself, what fiqh means by itself, but when we add them together, we have a third definition. Okay? Make sense? Give you the definition for this terminology, usul al-fiqh. So the same thing we've been doing with Tawheed al-Asma' was-Sifat. We define what this Tawheed means, linguistically coming from singling, unifying, saying it's only one. Technically, what is Tawheed? Who can define Tawheed, technically speaking? In Sharia, what is Tawheed? We have Tawheed, we love Tawheed, What's Tawheed means? The oneness of Allah. What that means? The oneness of Allah. Believe in Allah. But remember, there is always a connection between the Arabic language or the linguistic meaning of it and the technical.
Lordship, worship, and His names and attributes.
Yes, the oneness. That singling out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His lordship, worship, and His most beautiful names and the most exalted attributes, or sifat. Okay? So that's what basically Tawheed is about. It is about singling Allah with the greatness that He deserves. The greatness of His lordship, worship, and names and attributes and sifat. Okay? طيب. Names. What names in Arabic? Names. Z. Asma. Asma. Ism. Name. Okay. Ism comes from the word, let's say, if you get to the come from the word ism, wasm. Wasm. Okay? Or ism comes from the word sumu. In Arabic language, we have two schools of thoughts. In Arabic language, there is two schools of thoughts. Basriyin and Kufiyin. The scholar of Basra and the scholar of Kufa. Of Kufa. Okay? And because of them, because of this two school of thoughts in Arabic language, that different school of thoughts in Arabic language developed for us a school it's called the school of at-ta'wil in the tafsir al-Quran. They are more towards ta'wil, which is going more towards the meanings. And another school going towards more being literally, understanding the Quran literally. Because one of them, which is Al-Basriyin, they concentrate more in the words, the structure of the words. And Al-Kufiyin, they more towards the meanings and defining the words based, and they are into the meanings more than the structure of the sentences or the words or the sarf, the science of as-sarf, ilm as-sarf. Anyway, that's not my topic, just off topic a little bit, but that's why that would help, or that would actually start the whole issue of madrasat al-ta'wil in the tafsir, and also affect the fiqh. That's why from Kufa, you'll see the Hanafi school of thoughts very affected by this, or ascribed by this school of thoughts, which is originally has to do with the Arabic language. Two school of thoughts in regard to Arabic language, and both are very strong and right in general. Anyway, but it's a different case when it comes to the tafsir or the Aqeedah. There is more in details into this, which is you study in Ulum al-Quran, when you study the history of the school of thoughts in tafsir. طيب. What I try to say here, you have two things here. So the word ism or name either comes from wasm or sumu, or sumu. This is al-Basriyun. Basra. This is the way they spell it now? It's all over the news, isn't it? Al-Basra. That's right? Okay. Or if you say, how you say Basriyun? R-U-I-Y. Again? Like this? Basriyun. Okay. B-A-S-R-I-Y-Y-U-N. Who said it comes from the sumu? Sumu, it means high status, higher status. Sumu, it means when you take something higher. They said because the ism, the name, when you give something name, it means you make him in a higher status. But when you don't give him a name, it means you disrespect that thing. It's not important even to give it a name. That's why take this as a rules with you. Write it and try to have like a special note. It's called rules that you learn during this course. It's a general rules. It will be very beneficial for you in your life. That's why as much as there is many names for something, it means that something means a lot to those people. When you give it too many names, it means you holding in higher status. That's why Allah has so many names. That's why Al-Quran has so many names. That's why Surah Al-Fatiha has so many names other than any other surah, because this is the greatest surah in the whole entire Quran.
Which one?
Surah Al-Fatiha. That's why you have the Prophet Muhammad has many names more than any other prophet, because his status is higher than any other human beings. Okay? The Day of Judgment, Allah gave it so many names. Why? Because it's a very valuable name. So as much as there's so many names for something, it means it is very valuable to that person who give it a name. That's why the Arab, because it's a very valuable for them, the sword. Because they are knights and they are fighters. That's why you find there is over 80 maybe or 90 names for the sword itself in Arabic language. And you find so many names for the horse. And some of them give so many names even for dogs, because it means for them a lot, because they take care of their sheep, they go travel with them. So mostly or mainly whoever in this language gives so many names and titles to something, it means this something has higher stat. That's why they said the word ism comes from. Okay? Other group said no, which is al-Kufiyun. Said from, is that the way they spell it now? Kufa? K-U-F-A-H? Okay. Kufa. Kufiyun will be K-U-F, what? Same thing? I-Y-Y-U-N. Or K-U-F-F-I-Y-Y-U-N. Whatever you want. Kufiyun. I like it this way. Kaf, ya, fa, waw, nun. طيب. You know the word Kufi? Okay, it's close to that. Kufiyun. The Kufiyun said, al-ism, name, comes from the word wasm. Comes from the word wasm. What wasm means? Wasm? Whisper? No. Wasm. Wasm. Wasama. Online. Anybody? Wasama. No cowboys here? Okay. Cowboys, Texas. Brand, the animal. That we call it wasm in Arabic. I'm just giving you a hint. Description, Sister Suhair said. Wasm, description. Wasama, it means describe. That's right, wasafa. Wasm, wasf. It comes from the wasf or wasm. So, name, it means when you differentiate something from other by giving it a special identification. By identify it in a way to differentiate between these things and others. Like when you burn the cows, to differentiate between your cow and other people's cow. Distinguish it. So they said the name comes from the word wasm because it distinguishes you from others. So I will not be confused. It will be very helpful for me if all of you have one name. Because I didn't need to memorize all your names.
How do you write it?
Wasm, here. Okay? If all of you Ahmad, that will be so easy. That's right. Ahmad, sister Ahmad, brother Ahmad. You know, I'm done with it. I'm very, very, very grateful actually. Okay? But it is to distinguish you from others. So they said the name was given to the person to differentiate between him or to distinguish him from others, to identify the person. So your identification is your name basically. That's right. Your name, your family name, whatever. So they said, that's why we think the word ism, the root of it goes back to the word wasama. And that goes with the rule that we said earlier, that the Arabs switch Hamza and Waw so often. Ism wasm. Okay? So it's a two different opinions anyway. I don't think we need to go into which one is more authentic. But technically speaking, if this can help any one of you or benefit any one of you, Al-Basriyun's opinion is more closer to the structure of the it's more prefer as a term of pronunciation and look into the structure of the word. But Al-Kufiyun are, the meaning of their opinion is more stronger,
What do? You take both?
No, the vast majority of the scholar, goes with the, it comes from the word sumu, the madhab al-Basriyin, the Basriyin. That's the vast majority of the scholar. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, sumut means to be high, to be honored, to be raised. That's sumu. So Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah said, basically when you raise something, you distinguish it. That's right. When you put it up, you distinguish it. So that meaning from raising it or putting up, it includes the other meaning, which is distinguish, to be identified, because you put it up higher. And it also because name is an honoring, is a form of honoring. Who can define the names of Allah, technically speaking? Names are titles, descriptions, distinguish, define, identify, refer to Allah. Basically, it is, as we said in Arabic, أعلام مشتقة تدل على الذات الإلهية. It is basically titles, descriptions, which refer to Allah, to identify Allah. So that means that these names has meaning, has descriptions, otherwise they will not identify Allah. Otherwise they will not describe Allah, these names, that's right, these titles. So basically Allah's names is something it should be, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names are what will identify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or what will describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, distinguishing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such as, let's say your homework. Such as, Khalil, everybody say one name. 1, 2, 3, goes like this. One name. Khalil, one name. Yeah. Give me just one name. Of Allah. Al-Khaliq. Al-Aziz. Al-Rahman. Al-Mughni. No, Al-Mughni is a book by Ibn Qudamah. But I don't know if it is a name. No. Al-Ghani. Al-Sami', excellent. Al-Malik. Al-Musawwir. Al-Basit. No. Al-Hakim. Al-Basir. Al-Wadud. Al-Quddus. Not because you start first means the easiest. Actually, start first is the hardest because it's going to go like this. As-Salam. Ar-Rahman bin said. As-Samad. Al-Awwal. Al-Wahid. I don't know about Al-Wahid. But Al-Awwal, I will accept it because there is a debate about that. I'll tell you why later on. Al-Awwal. Al-Rashid.
And it was Ghani.
I said that. Al-Ghani. Al-Rashid, I don't know. What's the proof for that? Here, Al-Sabur, Al-Shakur, Al-Ra'uf, Al-Hamid, Al-Muta'ali. I don't know about Muta'ali. Al-Akhir, Al-Mutakabbir. Just no, one only. Huh? No, by turn. Al-A'la. Excellent. Al-Kashif. No. Al-Hayy. Al-Qayyum. Excellent. Muqallib al-Qulub. No. Not a name. Huh? Al-Aziz. Al-Haq.
We already said Musawwir?
Yes.
Al-Bari.
Al-Bari. Al-Ghaffar. ماشي.
I don't know anymore.
Al-Alim. Knowledge.
But the Akhir is right.
Yeah. Al-Awwal wal-Akhir is one name. But some would say two names. Al-Ra'uf. Al-Jabbar. Al-Latif. MashaAllah. Al-Nafi'. I don't know about that. Al-Barr. Al-Wahhab. Al-Bari. Al-Badi. I don't know about Al-Badi. As-Salam. No, Salam. I didn't. You said As-Salam? Al-Hafiz. I don't know about Al-Hafiz. I need to review that. To check on that. Al-Hakim. طيب.
So are there 99, exactly 99 names?
No, there are more than.
So why would we have all these posters or pictures of 99 names? I mean, you're thinking this is it, that's all there is, 99 names.
No.
The 100th one, there's like this, there's 100, but we don't know what the 100th one is. I mean, I don't know if you've heard this.
No.
So none of this is true.
No. And that's something we're going to study. That Allah has more than 90 names in Quran and in Sunnah. And we don't know exactly how many names He has. Nobody has that knowledge.
What about the name Al-Faisal?
Al-what? Al-Faisal? No. Al-Mateen. Excellent. Al-Mu'min. خلاص. Al-Shakur. Yes. Malikul Mulk. طيب. Al-Adl. Excellent. طيب. Best. That's it. Good. I will read your paper. Don't worry. I'll take my time to read it. And I really thanks the sisters who have sent me by email their papers and related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes that they collect. طيب. We have a few minutes left. I will let you go early today, so don't worry. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is all these names. As-Salam, Al-Mu'min, Al-Aziz, Al-Jabbar, Al-Mutakabbir, Al-Muhaymin, Al-Rahman, Al-Rahim, Al-Ra'uf, Al-Barr, Al-Alim. Actually titles, descriptions, and all referring to Allah, the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. All referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. طيب. So, we describe Allah with the most beautiful names and the most exalted attributes. Or we should replace this to the word with as-sifat. As-sifat. طيب. As-sifat comes from the word wasafa. And it's sifa. Sifat. Sifa is one, sifat is more than one. Wasafa, it means described. So, as-sifa, as-sifa, it what well describe, again identify, distinguish. That's right. Okay. So the word wasf, it means I describe something. I distinguish something by describing it, identifying it by giving a specific description, telling about it. Okay? So as-sifat, it is a description. It is something belong to someone. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describe Himself. Or in other words, identify Himself to us through names and through descriptions. And these descriptions, these sifat, could be meanings. Could be certain meanings that He wants us to know about Him. For example, to know that He is a loving God. A loving Allah. He is a loving one. Wadud. Or yuhib, He loves you. Yuhibbuk. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us about Himself by telling us something also about another meaning. Love is a meaning thing. It's a meaning, that's right. That's right, it's an attribute. Sah? That He is merciful. So mercy, another attribute. Wise, another attribute. Wisdom, which is wisdom. That's, you following me? Huh? He has will, which is mashi'ah or irada. Power, capability, knowledge. Okay? And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describe Himself and identify Himself by description which is related to some of His actions. In the day of judgment, Allah will come. Allah will judge. Allah will punish. Allah will reward. How many actions here? 4. He will come, He will judge, He will reward, He will punish. He will talk to you. He will meet you. You see, all this, something to identify Him, to describe Him, to give us clear view, clear understanding of the nature of this one that we worship. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above His throne, above His creation. Another description. Okay? Or in another word, if you want to use that, Allah settled on His throne, above His throne. on His throne above the world. Allah hears and sees. So that's another verb. And also Allah described Himself by saying that He has two hands. And Allah has face. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He has foot. He said that about Himself. That's another description. Another way of describing Himself. These not meaning. They are not meanings. They are a physical attributes.
He does have hands?
Yeah, Allah said that He has two hands. He said, I have created Adam with my both hands. Allah stretched His hand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold the earth and the whole entire universe in His hand. But you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. Because His hand is not like our hands. Allah said about Himself that He has eyes. And not only that He described His descriptions. He said that His face is so glory. His face has light. His hand takes and has fist. His hands has fingers. Allah, that's how He described Himself. And all this came in the authentic narrations. And also in the Quran, some of them. So basically, Allah's sifat, one sister said, both His hands are right. Yeah, but you have to understand, both His hands are right. It doesn't mean both hands on the right side. No. It doesn't mean that. Both His hands right, because we don't call left. Left in Arabic language is a negative description. It's a negative. That's why we call both are right. Both are right, but not both in the right. Anyway, and we don't go on details because we don't know how He is, to know how His two hands looks like. That's something belong to the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, so you see that Allah in the Quran and Sunnah have described Himself with sifat. Sometimes they are related to certain meanings, like love and wisdom and mercy. And sometimes related to certain actions, like coming, judging, talking, okay? Punishing, giving, taking, and certain times a physical descriptions, like what I said, face, hand, and so on. All these three exist. All these three, we call them sifat. We call them what? Sifat. It means something He Himself describe Himself with it. So basically, we understand now that as-sifat, in Arabic language, it means something you describe somebody with. Can I say in Arabic language that your hand is one of your sifat? Linguistically, yes. Your mercy, one of your sifat? Your knowledge, one of your sifat? Your color, one of your sifat? That's right. Your attributes, your attitude, one of your sifat? Linguistically, that's what it is. But technically, when we talk about Allah's sifat, the description of what's referring to meanings, or actions or physical description which referring to the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So al-sifat al-ilahiyya, Allah's sifat, it's one of these three. Because that's what we find when we search Al-Quran and Sunnah. That there is three different type of sifat.
In this case, the linguistic and the technical meaning are pretty close because
Yes?
technical is just
Like the names. Exactly like the word names. But the only difference is that Allah's attributes are, all these are unlike His creations, and they are perfect, and they are beyond our imaginations. We can comprehend what it means, but we cannot imagine how it looks like. And there is a big difference between you can comprehend things, but you cannot imagine these things. That's right. You can comprehend the sun, that star called sun. The stars which they're talking about millions of years away. You can comprehend it, but you can imagine that. That's right. You can comprehend the voice of the dinosaurs. But can you imagine the voice of the dinosaurs? No. The color of his skin, maybe you can imagine based on some techniques, but maybe if you study maybe you can imagine how it sounds like. But what I'm saying, there are so many times we can comprehend things, but not necessarily we can imagine them. Okay? I can understand I comprehend the meaning of electricity, but I cannot really imagine how that electricity is. So understanding is something, and knowing the nature of it, it's something else. I can understand the soul, the concept of soul, but I cannot imagine how that soul looks like. You know, I cannot really imagine how the children of Israel were 12 tribes walking in 12 bridge made of water inside, or made of solid inside the middle of the sea. And 12 roads, and between each one, a huge mountain that's see-through of water that they can see each other while they're crossing the sea. 12 roads, each tribe with themselves, by itself, out of honoring them. They don't even have to be all gathered in one bridge or one path inside the water. It's too crowded. No, each tribe by itself. You can comprehend that, but really imagining in details, it's beyond the human being's imagination. To turn a stick to a snake, it's something beyond your imagination. Right? And that's the nature of God subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we'll talk more inshallah about this. So this basically what it is. It is Allah subhanahu, that's what the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Singling out Allah with His most beautiful names, okay, and most exalted attributes mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah. So attributes of Allah and names of Allah, sifatullah and asma'ullah comes only from Quran and Sunnah. Okay, there is any beautiful exalted sifat Allah can be described with are not in the Quran or Sunnah?
yes.
Such as?
The knowledge that Allah has with Himself, like the dua, the various du'as that the Prophet ﷺ used to do, like La awsi thanan alayk anta kama athnayta ala nafsik.
No, just give me an example of something exists, you have, and it's so beautiful name, or it's a very great sifa, and you can describe Allah with it, and it's not in the Quran or Sunnah.
I would say yes, but I don't have any problem.
Okay. Absolutely yes. And we do this all the time. We do this in our dua all the time. We say, for example, Ya Kashif al-Ham. You call Allah.